the wonderful virtual blockchain week start page there. So we're talking about the future of money at Bitcoin.com. That's what we're trying to do for the world. And my presentation actually today is actually based off of a blog post by Brian Armstrong, the founder of Coinbase from a few years back. And his blog post was talking about how digital currencies will change the world. And there's a great quote from Brian here. It says, "Digital currency may be the most effective way the world has ever seen to increase economic freedom. If this happens, the implications are profound. It could lift many countries out of poverty, improve the lives of billions of people, and accelerate the pace of innovation in the world." And so that's a really, really exciting quote from Brian Armstrong. And it's nice to see so many other early cryptocurrency adopters excited about the exact same things that attracted me to cryptocurrencies as well. So let's talk about this whole economic freedom that the whole world doesn't have very much of at the moment, right? We can see everybody's locked down and they're trying to dictate what price you can sell your mask or your hand sanitizer for or any of that other sort of stuff here. And so we have some definitions here of what economic freedom is, right? So it's a measure of how easy it is for members of a society to participate in the economy. It has a number of factors such as how easy is it to start a business, whether property rights are enforced, free trade with people in other nations, regulation of labor and business, and the stability of the currency, right? And so we've seen with this coronavirus stuff recently, like they're literally telling people what price they can or can't sell their toilet paper for. And like anybody that studies economics will know that anytime you have price controls, that leads to shortages, right? So you need to have the prices be able to transmit the information as to what goods people want or what goods people don't want. And if you block those prices from being able to change, you're blocking that information to the economy as to what things need to take place. And then, of course, with fantastic tools like Open Bazaar and local.bitcoin.com, you can literally, and darknet markets as well, you can trade with people all over the world, regardless of what country they're in. It's really, really an amazing thing for the whole world. And then anybody can start their business. Anyone can pay anybody else. At Bitcoin.com, we're paying people all over the world. We pay people in Venezuela and Brazil and Russia in Bitcoin Cash. And it's just really, really fun to see that, like, literally, we can pay people all over the world and we don't have to deal with the bank. We don't have to report to the bank, oh, why are you sending this wire? Oh, we're going to hold it until they give us this information or that information. No, they just tell us their address and we can send it anywhere in the world. And it's just really, really fantastic on that front as well. So, and here we can see, though, a list of countries around the world ranked by the amount of economic freedom they have. And you can see the countries with the most economic freedom are places like Hong Kong, Singapore, New Zealand, and Switzerland, all fantastic places to live where people from all around the rest of the world would love to move to and be there. And if you look at the countries with the least amount of economic freedom in the world, it's places like North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba, and the Congo. And like people aren't trying to move there from all over the world. In fact, those are the places where people, in North Korea, they literally have to have armed guards to prevent people from escaping because it's so bad. And so you can see just a really, really stark contrast between the countries with the most economic freedom versus the countries with the least amount of economic freedom. And it's very, very clear which one of those two lists of countries just about everybody listening here would rather live in. And sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. So here we can see Hong Kong in the 1950s when it was just kind of a little bit of a sleepy fishing village versus Hong Kong today. That's just an absolutely amazing world-class economic powerhouse. And that wasn't all that long, right? Just a couple of generations. It went from basically nothing to this amazing, amazing city. And for anybody who's ever been to Hong Kong, as soon as you arrive there, you can just feel the economic energy and the power and the pulsing of financial things happening there. So it's just an amazing, amazing city. And I don't think it's coincidence that it's also one of the cities with the most city-states with one of the most amounts of economic freedom in the world over that time. And here we can see Havana, Cuba, over the same time period. And you can see that it didn't actually make all that much progress at all. So you can see on the left, in the 1950s versus Cuba today, Havana, Cuba today, not much happened, right? And so I don't think it's just a coincidence that not much happened because it was one of the places with the least amount of economic freedom in the world. So a very, very stark contrast between Hong Kong versus Cuba in the same time period. And you can take other examples historically. If you look at, for those of us that are old enough to remember, East Germany and West Germany, right? So in West Germany, you had a whole lot more economic freedom, and they were busy producing Porsches and Mercedes and BMWs and Audis, and people had a relatively high standard of living, and it was a pretty darn nice place. And in East Germany, you had, way, way less economic freedom and just freedom in general. And about the only thing they were able to produce out of East Germany, unlike the Mercedes and Porsches and BMWs from West Germany, all they were able to produce was a great big giant wall to prevent people from being able to escape. And I think that's another really clear contrast where you have, the same, ethnic people, same culture, same natural resources, yet two very, very different outcomes just because of the difference in the amount of economic freedom there. And so we can talk about, why is economic freedom so important? Well, it leads to higher per capita income, higher life expectancy, higher literacy rates, better income for the poorest 10% in society, improved environmental protection, fewer wars and violent conflicts, and higher self-reported happiness of the citizens with less corruption and bribery. Like, all fantastic things that everybody should be in favor of and excited about. And in fact, we even have some stats here so you can see exactly. So here in green, the dark green are the countries with the most economic freedom. Light green are countries with still a fair amount of economic freedom, to yellow in the middle, orange, and then red is the least amount of economic freedom. And you can see very, very clearly that in countries with the most amount of economic freedom, the poorest 10% still earn far, far, far more money than in countries with less economic freedom. And so just ask yourself, would you rather be a poor person in Hong Kong, Switzerland, Singapore, or a poor person in North Korea, Cuba, or Venezuela? And it's so clear that it's better to be a poor person in a rich country than to be a poor person in a poor country. And more economic freedom leads to countries becoming richer. And here we can see the overall income per capita, right? In dark green are the countries with the most economic freedom versus red with the least. Very, very, very clear correlation there. The more economic freedom a country has, the higher the per capita income that country has. And here we can see the adult literacy rates as well. I don't know if this is cause or effect for this one, but the more people know how to read, the more economic freedom the country has, or maybe it's the reverse. Maybe the more economic freedom a country has, the more people learn how to read. So, but very, very clear correlation here. And the least economic freedom, the fewer people know how to read in those countries. And here you can see life expectancy, right? In countries with more economic freedom, people tend to live longer, and not just a little bit longer, like nearly 20 years longer, right? So I just turned 41 recently. That's about half of my entire life so far, is the average amount of time that people live longer in countries with more economic freedom versus the countries with the least amount of economic freedom. So very, very, very clear correlation there as well, and I think causation as well. And again, unemployment, right? So of course this makes sense. In countries with a whole lot of economic freedom, you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops or ask for a bunch of permission from a bunch of bureaucrats who've never met you and they know nothing about your business. You don't have to ask them for permission. You just hire somebody and get started and build your business. And so if it's super easy for anybody to hire anybody without getting a bunch of permission, well, guess what? A whole bunch more people will have jobs. And in countries where the government tries to control everything and they have all sorts of crazy rules and regulations and licensing stuff, they make you jump through and pay a bunch of fees and whatnot. Well, guess what? When it's harder to hire people, fewer people will get hired. And we can see very, very clearly here in countries with the least amount of economic freedom, far fewer people have jobs, right? A lot more people are looking for work in countries with less economic freedom because it's harder to hire people. And here, people on the internet love to make fun about me saying, babies are dying. Well, pick up an economics book and take a look, right? In countries with more economic freedom, fewer babies die at childbirth than in countries with less economic freedom. So if you want to see more babies survive being born, you should be advocating for more economic freedom around the world because it leads to more babies surviving childbirth. So more economic freedom is good for adults, it's good for young people, it's good for old people, it's even good for babies. And here you can see it very clearly in the chart there. And then again, if you care about young people, you can see very clearly in the countries with the most amount of economic freedom, you have the fewest number of children in the labor force. And that's not because of laws that politicians passed in the economically free countries. It's because the society was able to become affluent enough in which children no longer needed to work in order to survive. So whereas in countries with the least amount of economic freedom and people are desperately poor, well, guess what? Kids are going to go into the labor force right away, because when you have a choice between being able to eat or going to work, you're going to go to work so you can be able to eat. And so you can see very, very clearly the correlation here in countries with more economic freedom, fewer children are in the labor force than in countries with less economic freedom. So if you don't want to see children working from a very, very young age, you should be advocating for more economic freedom as well. And here we can, I want to point out, correlation doesn't prove causation, but there's logical reasons to think that there's lots and lots of causation here. And when we see example after example in both theory and in practice of greater economic freedom, leading to better results for rich and poor, young and old, everybody around the world of every race and every culture, we can make some really, really strong inferences. And so that's what brings us to peer-to-peer electronic cash's impact on economic freedom, right? Because if you have a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, It makes it easier for you to start a business. It enforces your property rights. It promotes free trade. It enables freedom of contract. It enables people to opt out of corrupt systems. So like, that's what got me so excited about Bitcoin back in 2011, almost 10 years ago now, was that with peer-to-peer electronic cash on the internet, anybody can now engage in free trade with anybody else. And what could possibly be more exciting about that? And we've seen the narrative shift a bit over the last few years to this digital gold store of value thing. And like, if you want to participate in it, that's fine, go ahead and you can do that. But it doesn't bring these same benefits of bringing more economic freedom to the entire world. What brings the benefits of economic freedom to the entire world and the economic growth that enables that are peer-to-peer electronic cash systems, not peer-to-peer store value systems. And so that's why I'm so bullish about any cryptocurrency that works as peer-to-peer electronic cash. And so here we have a fantastic quote about Brian Armstrong and bringing more economic freedom to the world. He says that it will serve as a giant economic stimulus package for the world, accelerate innovation, reduce wars, make the poorest 10% better off, overthrow corrupt governments, and raise happiness. What could make you happier than doing all those things for around the world, right? And that's what peer-to-peer electronic cash systems enable. And that's why I say that Bitcoin Cash and digital currencies are the best tools the world has ever seen to accomplish these goals. So if you want to accomplish all those goals, you better get involved with peer-to-peer electronic cash systems that enable more economic freedom around the world. And so that's why I've been so excited in this space for almost 10 years now, all day, every day, whether a lockdown or not lockdown, it's all cryptocurrencies that work as currencies all day, every day. And so if that excites you too, and you want to spread this to the world and bring more economic freedom to the world and make everybody's life better, rich or poor, young or old, tell your friends, right? Set them up with a cryptocurrency wallet. You can get started with Bitcoin Cash. You can get started with Dash, Monero, Zcash, Zcoin, even Bitcoin BTC if that's what you really want to. But as someone that was using it in my own business, I stopped using it a couple of years ago because I paid more than $1,000 in fees, more times than I can count to move that Bitcoin. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the software engineers behind the future of the Bitcoin roadmap, they want the fees to be high for on-chain transactions. And don't be fooled by that. Pay attention to peer-to-peer electronic cash systems if you want to bring more economic freedom to the world. Peer-to-peer electronic store value systems, that's fine if you want to participate in it, but it doesn't really help bring more economic freedom to the world and all the benefits that that brings. So anyhow, that's my presentation today. While everybody's on lockdown around the world with feeling a little bit less economic freedom, here's some of the companies that I invested in over the years. So for anybody that doesn't know, I was literally the first person in the entire world to start investing in this ecosystem. And that's why I've been involved, because I want to bring more economic freedom to the world, and I want your help to do it. So, and I need your help to do it because it's up to all of us. And so one fast, fun little thing that I have here, once I exit this and stop my screen sharing, what we can do here is I have some peer-to-peer electronic cash here. Anybody with the Bitcoin.com wallet or any other wallet that can scan a private key, if you scan these, each one of these QR codes is a private key. And it has $5 worth of Bitcoin Cash on it. And so the first person to scan each and every one of these gets $5 worth of Bitcoin Cash, just like that, from this piece of paper, through the camera, out to wherever you are in the world watching this live stream, and that has $5 on it. And it's worth pointing out, right now the fees on Bitcoin are about $2 per transaction. So if I were doing this in Bitcoin, you'd claim the $5, you'd have to spend about $2 in fees to get it, so you'd receive $3 in your wallet. And then when you went to spend the $3 in your wallet, it would take another $2 in fees. So the person you were sending the money to would only be able to get $1, and then they wouldn't even be able to spend the $1 at all because it would cost $2 in fees, which they wouldn't even have. So that was the reason why a couple of years ago I switched to promoting Bitcoin Cash rather than Bitcoin, because from my point of view, Bitcoin Cash is the same version of Bitcoin that I got so excited about in 2011. And so that's not an attack on Bitcoin. That's just a statement of the fact of the matter there. And so like saying that gold weighs more than aluminum isn't an attack on aluminum. It's just stating that they're different. So if you want a peer-to-peer electronic cash system that allows you to send money right over a video call on Zoom to people all over the world, Bitcoin Cash enables that. Bitcoin no longer does. So anyhow, that's why I'm so excited about Bitcoin Cash. If you haven't tried it out today, head on over to bitcoin.com. If you want to make your own token as well, mint.bitcoin.com, and another permissionless tool that we have where you can buy or sell anything or Bitcoin Cash with any payment method in any country, anywhere in the world with no KYC, no permission from anybody whatsoever. Check out local.bitcoin.com. These are the tools to enable more economic freedom around the world, and that's what we're busy doing at bitcoin.com. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to present and give away free Bitcoin Cash on the live stream here.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for that. People were trying to do their screen cap, I'm sure. They're like, wait, hold on. You're moving it. Stop moving it. Wait, I can't.
Do you want to try and show it again or what?
Yeah, well, we can show you. I moved very slowly across each and every QR code, hoping that they would have time. And if you want to make your own gifts like these, you can head on over to gifts.bitcoin.com, and then you can hand these out to trick-or-treaters, or you can give them out as tips at restaurants, or whatever you want to do. And the really neat part about it is each one of these is a private key. When you make these using gifts.bitcoin.com, bitcoin.com keeps a copy of the signed transaction, not the private key, but a signed transaction to send the money back to you. So if nobody claims this after 30 days or whatever time frame you set, the money goes right back to your wallet. So you don't have to be worried about giving these out as tips to people that aren't ever going to claim them. The Bitcoin Cash will come right back to you if the person never bothers to claim it. So it's a really fantastic tool at gifts.bitcoin.com. And I hope more people will use it to spread peer-to-peer electronic cash around the world.
That's great. You know what? I want to tell you this, Roger. Thank you for all you've done for the industry. I know sometimes people try to bust your balls, but you know what? You've been out there from the beginning trying to create mass adoption and making people aware of this, and what you've done with voluntarism and sort of the libertarian sort of point of view of, hey, we should be able to control our own stuff and we don't need these big banks and intermediaries. We should be able to manage a lot of this stuff on our own. And all those companies that you've invested in early on to help build this ecosystem up. I mean, we are all truly indebted to you in some way or form for what you've done. So thank you for all of that.
My pleasure. It was fun for me too, Travis. Thank you. And thank you so much for you guys helping spread the word on your podcast and with this virtual blockchain week as well. I'm really thankful to you guys as well.
Yeah, well, you know, just like you've gotten some heat, like Travis was talking about for Bitcoin Cash, Craig Wright gets a lot of heat for Bitcoin SV. I'm curious, you know, what are your thoughts on Satoshi's vision?
I don't think Bitcoin SV deserves any heat, but I think Craig Wright's lawsuits against everybody and his threatening to sue everybody over patents, I think all of that deserves a lot of criticism. At the end of the day, people should be, and the other thing that just doesn't make any sense to me at all there is they're talking about, oh, Bitcoin SV needs to be compliant and obedient to all the laws around the world. Well, if your cryptocurrency is going to obey every law around the world, what do you need a cryptocurrency for? Just use PayPal. The entire point of cryptocurrencies is that by technological design, they're above the law, and whatever laws politicians get together and write doesn't affect the way that the cryptocurrencies work. So that part of Bitcoin SV, I don't understand at all.
I wonder, how's that going to end with Craig? What do you think is, you know, because I understand the suits right now are basically saying he's got to prove that he is Satoshi and that he's got the Bitcoin to pay, you know, these fees.
Yeah, how is it going to end? I don't know. Stay tuned.
That's true. And I do believe that Cointelegraph wants to interview you. So I don't know if you got an email or something telling you there's like some Zoom where you're going to go in and chat with some journalist over there if you could. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I think it's.
Yep, I have it on my calendar, and I'm ready for them as soon as we're done here.
Perfect. They're standing by for you then. Roger Ver, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you, my friend. Stay bad.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.